Jimmy Cope, I've already won twice this year.
Freddie Query, I've won twice this year, too.
Hey, guys, don't forget, I'm the champion.
So far, 1997 has been the Freddie Query and the Jimmy Cope Show, but an entire field will beg to differ. Late models best are next. Lakeland, Florida is home to USA International Speedway, a 3/4-mile track with two very long straights and two very tight corners. This could be one of the fastest tracks that the Hooters Cup drivers will be on all year. And today, it's the host to the Discount Auto Parts 200. Hello, everybody. I'm Rick DeBrule. You know, the big story this weekend hasn't been what's been going on the track, but what's been coming from the sky, rain. We were supposed to run this race yesterday, but it rained all day. In fact, Tampa, not far from here, got more rain in one day than they'd ever gotten. More than 5 inches of rain fell. I got news for you. Rain is a possibility again today. Take a look at the clouds. The possibility thunderstorms may hit, and the question is, what does that do to driver tactics? Because if the rain falls during the race, they could shorten. All they have to do is go 100 miles. Let's talk to Freddie Query, who's on the pole, and I guess the question is, do you change your tactics because of the potential for rain?
Well, we didn't, and we're not going to, you know. We just got to hope that it doesn't rain. Got to run 100 laps here and make it halfway before the race would be, you know, officially over with. And I think the pit strategy is probably going to have a whole lot to do with who's going to win the race. And then probably if you run 100 laps before you do stop, you're not going to win the race. So we're just going to play it like we normally do and hope it doesn't rain.
All right, Freddie Query going to go ahead with the plan he's got, but he's got another problem. Not only do you have to worry about the rain, he's got to worry about the guy who's qualified in second. That's Jimmy Cope in the #1 car who's qualified second. And the question is, we're give you the same question. Do you change your tactics because of the potential for rain?
I think we're going to stick with our game plan and hope Lady Luck plays on our side. I don't think it'll rain today. I think we'll be fine.
Well, I got to tell you, he lives in St. Petersburg, not far from here. He knows Florida weather. Jimmy Cope's got a good idea as to what's going to happen. All right, let's turn it over to Larry Rice and Ray Dunlap.
Well, thank you, Rick. You know, one of the things about this series that makes it such a challenge is the diversity of the different kind of racetracks that these drivers have to face. And, Larry, we've seen them at Orange County, we've seen them at Mobile, but the race back here in Lakeland, the very first race of the season, was a great one.
It was a terrific race. This is a big racetrack. It takes a different strategy. It takes a different style than a lot of the short tracks that we've seen. So it's going to be interesting to see if Freddie Query can come back here and do what he did last time.
Well, it's the second fastest racetrack they'll run all season. And now let's take a look at the starting lineup for today's Hooters Cup race. Second consecutive pole for Freddie Query, won at Orange County, and this weekend here at Lakeland, Jimmy Cope from St. Petersburg, Florida, on the outside of row #1. Dwayne Dempsey, also a St. Petersburg resident. He'll start car number 70 in third position alongside Bobby Gill.
Dick Anderson will start inside row #3 in the Castrol GTX car, and outside of him will be Harold Fair Jr. from Romulus, Michigan. Inside will be Jack Cook of row #4, and then Daryl Shelnut will start outside of row #4.
Mike Garvey in car number 40 will go off in the next position. Of course, Garvey having an excellent season in qualifying, won the pole here last time, and then at Mobile International Raceway also on the pole. Mario Goslin in car number 10 will roll off 10.
Yes, and then Tony Walls, Mike Franklin, Nevin Jenkins, Derek Kelly, Billy Bigley Jr., and on down through the rest of the field.
Ronnie Burkett in car number 31, qualifying all the way back in 16th. A bit of a surprise there. See Scott Wimmer, the current rookie leader, qualifying 21st.
Yeah, there are some surprises. We see we have 32 cars here today, a great field of cars, all of them fairly close. The first, especially 15 or so, very, very close in qualifying time.
Tracy Goodson all the way back there in 28th, and Homer Heflin rounding out the field in 32nd.
Take a look back there, car number 92, Dick Anderson. Remember a couple of weeks ago what happened to him? Well, we're going to show you right now. They rebuilt this car completely after this accident, and believe me, it was damaged very, very badly there. They completely went through it, rebuilt it, back on the racetrack, good as ever.
Well, Larry, I'm not sure the folks at home have any idea how much work had to go into that kind of a project to get that car back after that major crash.
Now, you know, most people don't realize how much time is spent on a race car in general. I mean, there are hours and hours and hours. A lot of these guys have regular jobs, and they really spend 40 hours on their regular job and then another 50 or 60 hours a week working on the race cars. So it is a tremendous effort and a tremendous commitment that these guys make.
So Anderson back out on the racetrack again, looking here from the in-car camera. Derek Kelly, the Discount Auto Parts car. And Larry, these drivers now getting psyched up for the start. We take a look right now at the 97 standings. Query the leader, Billy Bigley, Jimmy Cope on the heels of 2 wins, Bobby Gill and Mario Goslin. Before the race started, we asked many of the drivers, what do you think about the racetrack here at Lakeland, Florida?
It's 3/4 mile. It's a very big racetrack, very fast. It's got real tight corners, something like you would see at a 1/4 mile racetrack, because they're very sharp, you know, very tight.
I like everything about this racetrack. It's big, it's fast, it's wide. There's plenty of room to race. Somebody can't get on the bottom and hold you up. If you're faster than the other guy, all you got to do is jump on the outside and go.
Now the words from Mike Garvey as the field now lines up here ready to get the green flag in the 6th event of 1997 in the Hooters Cup Series. Ray Dunlap, Larry Rice, and Rick DeBrule bringing it to you. Dick Westfall throws the green, and we're underway.
You can see right away, Freddie Query jumps out into the lead. Jimmy Cope just follows him down to the bottom. Everybody else, a couple of guys back there running side by side. This is a very racy racetrack. Guys can do that and not get in too much trouble.
Well, as Garvey said, you can definitely race 2 wide here. You don't want to put her 3 wide very often, that's for sure. Oh, and the yellow flag is out.
We got a spin back there in the back. Got 2 or 3 cars down to the inside. Those guys were just down there trying to miss the spinning car. I couldn't see exactly who that was.
Well, that's Jack Cook, Larry, in the number 96 there, who spun right in front of Mike Garvey. That was a good shot from our onboard camera, and David Jude in car number 2 also involved.
You can see there, just looked like the back end got loose. He spun around. Nobody really hit him. Just one of those things.
Well, the yellow is out here at Lakeland, and we're going to have a complete restart for the Discount Auto Parts 200. Today's running of the Discount Auto Parts 200 is being brought to you by Hooters Restaurants, delightfully tacky, yet unrefined. And by Jackaroo Barbie Sauce. If you've got regular barbecue sauce, you ain't got Jack. And by Naturally Fresh, pure spring mountain water. It's naturally refreshing. Back at the USA International Speedway in Lakeland, Florida, ready for a complete restart here in the Discount Auto Parts 200. Rick DeBrule is down in the pit area.
But gentlemen, before we get the green flag, let's talk about one thing. That's momentum. 3 drivers have it right now. You got Jimmy Cope, who won the last Hooters Cup race. You've got Mario Goslin, who won the last Pro Cup race, the last race he was in. And you've got the guy with his team back behind me, Dwayne Dempsey. He won a modified race at this track on Friday night. All 3 of those guys have the momentum to get to victory circle.
Freddie Query made a real interesting move there. He got right over in front of Jimmy Cope. I'm not sure whether he was afraid he was going to try to get the jump on him or not. He didn't want to give him the outside lane, so he just moved right over in front of him.
Well, Larry, Freddie Query certainly has the experience of running up front. He knows when he can make that move down to the inside and when he shouldn't.
That's right. Jimmy Cope already looking to the inside there as they head down into turn 1. The rest of the field really not all out in single file yet. Everybody's still trying to jockey for position.
Well, Jimmy Cope won the pole in this Miller Lite car at the 3rd event of the 1997 at the New Smyrna Speedway, but the last 2 races he's taken it to victory lane, and I think he'd much rather go to victory lane than worry about starting first.
Well, that's for sure. So we're going to ride along with Derek Kelly here, and we're going to look at the hood. See how interesting that is, the fiberglass, so it's blowing up there in front of him. You know, the piece of the fiberglass blows up in front. You know, that shows you how much wind gets underneath those things as they're traveling through the corner.
Billy Bigley Jr. in car number 28, that brand new sponsorship from Budweiser, as he's right there in front as you were looking out the hood there. Freddie Query, your leader. Jimmy Cope now in second. Oh, in trouble down the back straightaway. Car number 7, Daryl Shellnut. Appears like he's throwing some smoke.
That's a tough break for him. He qualified up in front, up in the 8th position, so he had a good shot of running very, very well today, but he's going to have to make a quick pit stop, and that's going to end his chances probably.
Well, Larry, a lot of the drivers in this field today coming to us from Florida. As you said, Daryl Shellnut qualified 8th. He's from Fort Lauderdale.
Yes, there's a lot of drivers from the Southeast. There's also a lot from the upper Midwest. Those are 2 of the real strongholds of this kind of racing. And this Hooters Cup Series has drawn people from those 2 areas in particular.
Taking a look out the front of Mike Garvey's race car here, number 40, the Coors Light entry, as he motors through the center of the turn. And, you know, we heard some of the drivers mention in the start of the show how this racetrack drives. It really has very long straightaways.
Very long straightaways. It's tough on brakes. You got to make sure the brakes are cooled. You don't overheat them. So you got to run way down. It's really 2 drag strips. You run down there, you step on the brakes, and the corners are not real long and wide. That's why you can run on the outside and not lose a lot of this kind of a big of a racetrack.
It kind of looks like Martinsville, although there's much more banking here, and that lets these late model race cars really go through the turn very quickly. Looking there at Garvey in car number 40, and he is being hounded by Mario Goslin in the Jackaroo number 10. They come down the front straightaway past some lap traffic.
Yeah, of course, those guys have been battling each other all year long. They've been, they're used to this. Right in front of them, Cook really kind of holding up the train, it looks like, as they're both banging on him pretty hard.
And the number 96, Jack Cook, was the car that spun to bring out that very first yellow, and I have to wonder a little bit whether maybe he scrubbed the tires a bit there when he slid her sideways.
Well, you know, that's a possibility, you know, and if they are a little bit out of bounds, if he did scrub them a little bit, that's going to hurt him as the race goes along. He's going to want to come in. Uh-oh, Shelnut is going to head for the pits. We saw that smoke earlier.
Well, Darrell Shelnut, making his second start of 1997, has yet to post a top 10 finish, and it appears he's having trouble. Let's see from Rick DeBrule down in the pits.
Darrell Shelnut brings the car in. They had an oil leak a little bit earlier today. They thought they'd gotten it fixed, but apparently they hadn't. They've got a problem still with oil coming out of the car. You can see Darrell Shelnut disconnecting. Unless they get this thing fixed, they're done for the day. But because it was an earlier problem, they don't have a lot of optimism.
Well, when the window net comes down, it's usually not a very good sign, and it was down. Look at Garvey. Oh, we got a spin. Car number 3, Nevin Jenkins, is spun coming up off of turn 4.
So Jenkins loops it in car number 3, and Shelnut is in the pits. Second caution of the day here at Lakeland, Florida. We'll be back with more Hooters Cup racing. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Discount Auto Parts 200, coming to you from USA International Speedway in Lakeland, Florida. The yellow flag is waving once again. Nevin Jenkins from Homosassa, Florida, in car number 3, spun off turn 4.
All right, Nevin, explain what happened out there.
I lost another motor. Bad luck.
Painful day.
2 in 2 races. We had a great race car. The Futronics Chevrolet Monte Carlo was running good. We had a good car, and just lost another motor. That's 2 in a row.
Back end's crushed in. Anybody come into contact with you?
I think the tow truck did most of that damage. But one guy, I think Derek Kelly, tapped me, but he couldn't help it because motor quit.
But he should be able to go on as well.
Yeah, I just want to say my crew did an awesome job on this race car, and I had a really good car, thanks to them. And yep, next time.
Till next time.
Well, and we see Homer Heflin from Jackson, Mississippi, an unsponsored race car heading to the pits there, so trouble for Homer.
Yeah, that's not a good sign when you got guys pushing behind the wall like that. So he's obviously going to be done for the day. Let's take a look at what happened. We're riding along with Derek Kelly. He tries to get inside of Jenkins. Coming off of turn 4, you can see as they're coming off, man, his engine just quit. He nails him in the back end and spins him. That's what actually spun him, but there was nothing he could do. When the motor quits on you coming off the engine or off the corner, man, it causes all kinds of trouble. They're lucky there wasn't really more trouble than there was.
And to Kelly's defense, it really wasn't his fault because he's just coming off the corner ready to go racing, and we're ready to go back to racing. Here as the green flag comes out, back down the front straightaway, and look at Jimmy Cope taking a look to the inside of Query.
Yeah, it's good racing. You're exactly right. Kelly had nothing to do. When that engine quit in front of him, I mean, he was already flat chat. Boy, he was on the throttle and coming off of there, and he just rammed him, and, you know, it's just one of those things. Like I said, he's lucky he didn't get hurt worse than he really did.
Jimmy Cope applying all kinds of pressure to Freddie Query down the front straightaway. Cope again looks to the inside, a little bit of contact there as the Miller Lite car bumps the back end of car number 8. And to the outside, I'll tell you what, Bobby Gill, in trouble over in the turn. Jack Cook again spins.
Jack Cook up against the wall. Didn't hit it real hard. We got everybody else involved. That's the 39 car of Mike Hovis sitting down there. One of the cars involved. Oh, Mario Goslin. He's got the front end tore up on that thing.
Oh, boy, a lot of damage to the Jackaroo car. Tough break for Goslin. Appears that he's got a brake rotor on fire there on the left front. Take a look from our in-car camera here again. Once again, Derek Kelly.
Well, he's been right in the middle of everything. And, Goslin right there. Tony Walls got into the back of him, pushed him around or pushed him. Oh, Goslin. Look at that, how close he was. He has been right in the middle of every bit of action.
Well, here's what happened. Jack Cook goes around, and Tony Walls just gets into the back bumper of car number 10, Goslin. He spins around. Hovis is just in self-defense there, sliding a bit sideways, but a lot of damage to Mario Goslin's car number 10.
Once the first car started spinning up there, everybody back behind there was getting on the brakes trying to avoid it. And the farther back in the chain you are, obviously, the less time you have to stop. And that's why you get run into from behind.
Mario Goslin's best finish came just a week ago at Orange County, a 4th place run. He's in trouble today here at Lakeland.
Mario Goslin on pit road. Now the crew starts taking the car apart. Unfortunately, the question is how much damage was done. Body work is one thing. Problems underneath are another. We can see at least one oil line out on the ground dripping some oil. Mario Goslin did so well in the Pro Cup race just a week ago, now has some serious problems. The question is it repairable? No question he's going to lose some laps. At this point, all he's going for is points, even if he tries to get back out. But the concern is just trying to get him back out in a way that the car will be safe. Well, I got news for you. It looks like there's some fluid leaking out, and there could be a real concern.
Well, obviously, it could be either water or oil. Both those radiators or coolers up in the front of the car, and either one are going to be problems for him.
They're definitely going to have to repair that. We're looking at car number 0, Robert Yoho. He's a local favorite there in the Q Motorsports Chevrolet. Back down to Rick.
This is pit stop number 2 for Billy Bigley Jr. He managed to get back out without too many laps. Now they have to finish off the repair work that they started the first time around. They're going to go ahead and change the tire on the right side, finish up a little of, well, what I'll call body work on the front, try to do a few repairs. You've heard of a hammer mechanic? Well, that's exactly what these guys have become in this particular race.
Well, I'll tell you, Larry, what a tough break for Billy Bigley. His last 3 races have been incredible. All top 5 finishes. 2nd at New Smyrna. I think he was 4th at Mobile, and he had a great run just a week ago with a 3rd place run, but I don't think he's going to do that well today.
No, he's going to lose a few laps in there with all the repairs he had to make. But that's the brakes. What can you say?
180 career starts for Billy Bigley, and no wins. Should be just around the corner before we see that car go to victory lane. Ready to go for the restart. The green flag will be back out here at Lakeland, Florida. Freddie Query with a great jump coming down the front straightaway. That car really gets under power quickly.
Well, I think he caught everybody sleeping a little bit there because he really got on the throttle a little earlier than anybody expected him to. He pulled away from everybody by several car lengths. But you can see that Cope right away is right back on his bumper. Cope is really, really fast at this point of the race.
Well, I had just mentioned Bobby Gill in car number 5. And he is really running well, too. Just before that big accident had happened, we saw Gill going to the outside now
oh, man. Cope got sideways there as he was getting on the inside of Query and almost made contact in there. I thought he was going to push Query clear to the outside and give Gill an opportunity to get under there.
And the lead changes for the first time here at Lakeland, Florida.
Tim Courtney, the crew chief for Billy Bigley Jr. What's the story on his car?
Well, Rick, they got turned around up in front of us. We got into them a little bit, and the right got a little bit of damage on the right front. We took the body work off, and we may be towed out, maybe a 1/4 inch on the butt car.
Is he saying much about the suspension?
Well, everything feels good. We're going to go to this green flag session and see how it feels.
And Larry, that driver-crew chief communication is so important, especially on a fast racetrack like this one here at Lakeland.
Well, yes. I think if you watch any kind of racing series, whenever a driver and a crew chief communicate well, they're at the top of the game. They're the guys that win the race. This is no longer an individual sport. It's very, very much a team sport. And you've got to have everybody, crew chief, mechanic, crew members, everybody on the same page all the time, or you're not going to be successful in a Major League Racing Series in America.
Well, Query was running so well, and he gave up the lead there. Oh, well, the yellow is out once again. Robert Yoho in car number 0, one of the local favorites here, loops it around coming out of turn 4. I was saying Query was running so well, but right after Cope got by him, Gill went right with him.
Yeah, it looks like right now Cope has the fastest race car, and that can change, you know. Once they change tires on their pit stops, anything can happen. But right now, Cope seems to be faster. Gill's trying to chase him down, but we'll just have to wait and see right after this.
Welcome back to the Discount Auto Parts 200 here at Lakeland, Florida, USA International Speedway. Time for the weather report. We talked about the possibility of rain before the race. I want to show you my high-tech weather device. It's this thing right here. That's my sleeve. When it gets wet, then it's raining. When it's dry, like it is now, it's not raining. That's pretty much all these guys have to go on either. So far, no rain. That's the good news. Let's go back to Ray and Larry.
I'll tell you, Larry, I think for Christmas I'm going to buy that boy a barometer or something. You got to get a little more high-tech than that.
Yeah, the one thing I'm sure of is hot and humid. That's And that is going to play a factor as well. You know, it's tough on the drivers when you get up to 150 laps or so and it's hot and as humid as it is. If it doesn't rain, if you've ever been in Florida after a rainstorm, you can imagine what we're talking about because it is nasty, the humidity down here.
No doubt about that. Ready to go back to racing here. The green flag will come out on lap 37. Dick Westfall gives them the green, and down the front straightaway comes Jimmy Cope. Now your leader, and I'll tell you what, Freddie Query is kind of falling back a bit.
Well, Query looked to the inside. He tried to get underneath Gill going down the front straightaway. Could not do it. But right now, Gill is the guy that's keeping up. And I'll tell you what, the 70 car back there, Dwayne Dempsey, who won that modified race here on Friday, he's doing a nice job, and he's hanging right in there.
No doubt about it. Good run for Dempsey today in car number 70. Now, the two cars we've been talking about quite a bit up front, that's Jimmy Cope and Freddie Query. They've been up front throughout the season in 1997. Freddie Query has led 383 laps coming into today's race, and Jimmy Cope 159. The one driver we have not seen up front yet is car number 5, and that is Bobby Gill.
Well, he has been up front on occasions, but he hasn't been up there, I don't think, for a long period of time. I think a couple times he's been up there, you know, challenging a little bit, but always one element or another put him back out or out of contention right away. He seems to be getting around really well now. I'll tell you, let's just take a look from this end car, this racetrack, and how sharp these corners are. Really, it's a tough racetrack to get around because of the sharpness of the corners. And you can see these guys right now. They're sliding and slipping a little bit as they go through there. Every corner, once they get right past the apex, the back end comes out a little bit. That's tough on tires, heats them up.
Well, 13 career top 5s for Bobby Gill in car number 5, the terminal trucking entry, and he's putting some pressure on Cope now, and he takes a look to the outside. That's the long way around here. Oh, and trouble on the backstretch.
That's Yoho again on the inside. He backed it into the fence this time. First time he spun, there was no contact. This time he had some light contact with the right rear of the cars. He sits there, tries to get the car refired and underway again. If he doesn't do it pretty quickly, he's going to lose a lap, though.
Robert Yoho, one of the local favorites, as we've mentioned. He brings out the caution once again here at USA International.
He's trying to figure out which way to go. He's turned it to the left and waiting on the traffic to go by. Now then he's going to sit there and looks like he killed the engine again.
Yeah, could be. No, he's moving there, but Yoho to the inside coming off of turn number 2. He spun her in turn number 1, 2, and 4. So all he's got to do is get a good spin in turn 3 now, and he'll be all right.
Now he's going to go to the right. He's decided he's going to go against traffic this time. I don't know why he didn't go ahead and pull out. There was a large area there that he could have just made a left and go around, fall in behind everybody. But now then he's going to make a right, go around, and pull in behind everybody.
Well, could be suspension damage for Yoho. We'll give you an update when we come back to Florida. Welcome back to USA International Speedway. The Discount Auto Parts 200 is about to restart here from Lakeland, Florida. Lap 44 as they come down the front straightaway. We're back under green. This is the second event of 1997 to be held here at this 3/4-mile racetrack. There are 3 events scheduled. The first event, of course, this year being won by Freddie Query.
Yes, he did a nice job, and obviously he likes this racetrack. Once again, he's right up front. And these first 5 cars, actually, Dick Anderson's the 5th car in there that we haven't talked a whole lot about. But those first 5 cars have really been pretty much on the same page, pretty close to each other. And at different points of the race, different ones of them have been the fastest. Right now, it appears like Cope and Bobby Gill's putting a lot of pressure on him.
Gill really looks good, Larry, and, you know, we mentioned a little bit earlier that he has not yet won in 1997. 2 second-place finishes this year, but last year here at Lakeland, he did go to victory lane in one of the 3 races held in 1996.
Well, experience at a racetrack has a lot to do with it. So if you come here and run a lot, you win a lot. You can see right here, Cope's trying to hold him off. He's pulling down to the inside, protecting the inside. If he wants to go around, he says go around the outside. Now then he slides up and gives him the opportunity to get on the inside, and Gill says, thank you very much. I'll take that.
Yeah, the door is open. I'm going to run right through it, and here goes Bobby Gill in car number 5, and Query came right with him, so those 2 cars freight train all the way past Jimmy Cope.
He did, and as they did that, you can see the back end on these cars getting a little loose. The racetrack either getting a little slick, the tires getting a little bit worn. Look right there. Gill again got a little wiggle coming out of turn 4.
So for the first time in 1997, Bobby Gill up front at the lead of the pack, having a good run today here at Lakeland. And you're right, he just likes this racetrack.
Well, you know, if you run good, if you're well prepared, if you've got the setup for a racetrack, then you're going to go there and run well every time. Obviously, these guys up front have run well here before. As we look at Freddie Query, he's on the inside again, and he's got position. Gil's going to have to give him that inside line.
Good racing here at Lakeland. On the inside, Freddie Query in car number 8. And look how those cars get loose coming off of turn 2. An awful lot of horsepower in these Hooters Cup racers.
And this time, Cope comes right along with Query. Once you get on that outside, it looks like you're going to be moved right on out. You're going to lose at least a couple of spots.
From front to third position in a blink of an eye.
And one easy lesson. That's exactly right. So take a look down through the field up there in the upper left hand of your screen. You can see where your favorite drivers are running. But this battle for the front, Cope is now going back after Query.
These guys have been doing this all season long. It's certainly exciting racing. Jimmy Cope from Florida and Freddie Query from Mooresville, North Carolina have put on a great show throughout the season, and that's why both of them are at the top of the points in the Hooters Cup Series. See there, Bigley in car number 28 appears to be coming into the pit area.
Yeah, he's been in and out of there a couple of times with different problems. We're now right along with Mike Garvey, who hasn't been running as well here today as I think he had hoped to, but he's been in plenty of action back there battling the whole way, and he has moved up several positions.
Mike Garvey in number 40 started 9th today on the field. We have not seen him run to the front yet like we might expect. One other driver we should update the folks on, Larry, is Mario Goslin. He's one of those drivers that won here last season in 1996, and when he went to the pits earlier, I had figured that they were done for the day, but that's not the case. He's back out there on the racetrack and continuing around this racetrack to try to pick up some of those valuable points.
Well, that's exactly right. They want to get every point that they can. It's a long season and a lot of money up at the end of the season, so they're not going to pull in and quit that easily.
Dwayne Dempsey in car number 17. Oh, look at this. Robert Yoho has spun again. I think this time it might have been coming off turn 3.
Yeah, this is, I think, the 4th time that he's had a problem on the racetrack. So, obviously, they need to do a little work on the race car. Let's take a look at the racetrack. 12-degree corners, perfectly symmetrical. This racetrack is not a D shape, perfectly symmetrical front straightaway and back straightaway. A great racetrack to run on and very, very competitive, as we've seen.
Well, and the way this racetrack is laid out certainly helps the drivers set up with those corners being very similar coming into 1, 2, and 3 and 4 are almost identical.
You know, it's odd, though, that every time you say you have an identical racetrack where the corners are identical, as a driver, when you get out there, there are little certain nuances. Every corner is different. You got to drive every part of that racetrack just a little bit differently. And obviously, if you got your race car set up best, you're going to win the race.
Now, look at this, Larry. Here is one of those circumstances that we had talked about earlier. When will the drivers pit? The sunshine has come out on the pit road, and the first move in this chess game is underway.
Well, Freddie Query used this method earlier in the year. He pitted early, got track position. It worked for him then. We'll see if that's a smart move this time.
He's gone to the pit road right now to the attention of the crew, and we'll let Rick DeBrule give you the call.
Well, this is the pit stop that Freddie Query had planned to make all along. He wanted to come in early. Indeed, he has. Crew puts tire just on the right side and send him back out.
So Freddie Query now making that move. He's decided to come in and pit. And Larry, we're at the point of this race where we're just past 50 laps. What do you think of his strategy?
Well, you know, there's two different ways to look at it as we take a look at some of the other pit stops. Number one, if you come in early, get new tires, you go back out, you get track position. When everybody else comes back in, you move to the front of the line. The other theory is if you wait the halfway mark, maybe your tires are going to be better. We've seen Query do this in the past. It worked for him the last time, although they had quite a bumping and banging match between he and Dick Anderson there at the end. So who knows? You know, one theory to me is almost as good as the other. It depends entirely on how good the tires are.
Well, and again, we have to take into consideration the weather today here at Lakeland, Florida. Very hot, very humid, and that may play out into the way the tires wear here on this long racetrack. Mario Goslin now into the pits in car number 10. And again, being out there on the racetrack, very, very important. They've got that car repaired, and he's out making laps.
Yes, you can see he and Bigley both have a few laps down, but they are in there making repairs, going to go stay out.
Folks, you need to understand that many of these drivers compete for the national championship, sponsored by Miller Lite Beer, and many of them are local favorites at different racetracks that this series competes at. So not all the drivers that you're seeing in the race today compete in every event. We try to, throughout the year, show you the point standing so you understand who's running in what position, but it is a long season, as you said, a lot of races coming up.
There's Lee Raymond in there in the 67 car. The hood is up on that car. That's never a good sign. He's going to lose some laps. Mario Goslin back on the racetrack. He's about 7 or 8 laps down now, but he's going to hang on, try to gain some valuable points throughout the rest of the day.
Well, Nevin Jenkins went out on lap 10. We also saw Darrell Shelnut and Homer Heflin out of the race. Jack Cook in car number 96 went out on lap 21.
And Robert Yoho there in the pits now, and looks like his day is done as well.
Here's your race analysis. 54 laps down. We're going 200 for the distance. Back to Lakeland after these messages.
All right, Alex Query, what's the plan here? Why'd you bring him in?
Well, we decided to come on in and pit early so that we could get track position when the other guys start pitting, and they pay $1,000 to lead the halfway thing. So a lot of these guys pit right there at the caution, be either before or after, and we've kind of been messing around with that lately. So we decided to come on in this time and take some tires and play that gamble this day.
What's your dad saying about the track?
Well, there's been a lot of people laying a lot of grease and stuff down, but the track's in real good shape. It just takes a couple laps to get stuff off the tires to get settled back down.
Any concern that you pit early and all kinds of things can go on later on? What if there's, for example, a little bit of rain?
That's racing.
Well, Alex Query certainly said it best there. That's racing. And, Larry, this really is a big gamble each and every week.
Well, it certainly is. And it's interesting that the reason they did it was to try to lead and get that $1,000. You think that money's not important? That $1,000 is big to these guys, you know, and it's a lot of money. And they're taking that gamble particularly to do that, hoping that the tires will not go away those last 30 or 40 laps if these other guys do stay out there until 80 or 100 laps whenever they come in. Right now, though, Jimmy Cope, he got a terrific restart, just pulled away from Bobby Gill on that restart.
Well, here's Dick Anderson putting some pressure on Dwayne Dempsey in car number 70. Anderson takes a look to the inside in the Castrol car, and down the front straightaway they come, and it appears Anderson will get the position there for third.
Yeah, he did a nice job down there in 3 and 4. He got both those left rear tires down underneath that yellow line, and there is a difference in banking there. It flattens out there. Difficult to run 2 tires down there without shaking the car loose. He did that, moved Dempsey up, and went on around. And we take a look at Garvey now. He's moving up, too.
So Garvey makes his way past Harold Fair Jr. in car number 71, and he's racing with Tony Walls down the front straightaway. There is racing all over this track.
We're riding along with Derek Kelly. He's got a good view of all that racing in front of him. And I tell you what, it is close. These guys all trying to find a way around this racetrack. As somebody said earlier, it's getting kind of greasy out there, so you got to make sure you get to the bottom of the racetrack, and if you're going to stay to the top, you got to make sure you got the momentum and not slide up too high and get up in the marbles, which are only 2.5 lanes out there.
Well, Kelly there was racing right behind Ronnie Burkett in car number 31, who has had some great runs the last couple of weeks here in Hooters Cup racing. Jimmy Cope is your leader. He is out front, as we've seen an awful lot in the last couple of races. He's won the last 2. He won at Mobile International Speedway and Orange County Speedway. So Jimmy Cope certainly the driver with the hot record in 1997.
And when you get on a roll, once you get things going your way, you get the team in sync, you get your guys in sync, you get yourself in sync. Well, he's running pretty high coming off that corner. But anyway, then things just seem easier and easier and easier. Always when you're running good, it seems the easiest.
Now, don't forget, folks, Freddie Query came in around lap 50. Pit strategy is definitely going to be a factor today.
Eddie Brand is Jimmy Cope's crew chief. You say you've got problems in the car?
Yeah, it's real tight. Been tight all weekend, and now he thinks power steering's gone out. So about 80 laps, so we're going to come in, change tires, check see if it's got fluid or belt off of it or something. He's going to hang on, see what he can do.
Why not bring him in early?
Well, we want to try to get a good set of tires on for the end run, for the long run. So he's just going to see what he can do out front. We're out front. There ain't no sense coming in now.
Well, that certainly explains why he's been kind of running a little higher coming off of the corners. You know, when the power steering goes out in these things, it's awfully, awfully tough to steer one. I can't imagine trying to run the next 120 or 30 laps with no power steering in one of these cars. Because if you've ever driven your passenger car sitting in a parking lot when the power steering doesn't work, that's just about how hard it is in one of these things. It's not much different, and it's tough to steer one.
Well, if that car's getting him so much trouble, I can't believe these other cars haven't been able to catch him. Jimmy Cope's car is running very, very fast this afternoon. Bobby Gill giving chase to him. Now here goes back to 5th and 6th position. Dwayne Dempsey in car number 70, and Mike Garvey now moving up into Coors Light number 40, giving a run on Dempsey off of turn number 4. Not this time, though.
Yeah, we talked about Garvey and how he'd been moving up slowly but surely. I think his whole strategy was, you know, it's a long race. I don't have to pass all these guys all at once. And he's done a nice job, been very, very patient, moved up very nicely, and now he's threatening to move right up in past Dempsey.
Well, what a tough break for Mike Garvey back at Orange County Speedway just 2 weeks ago. Out of the race early, finishes 29th. and that hurt him a bunch in the points, put him back 4 or 5 positions. So Garvey really would like to have a nice, strong top 5 run, or maybe even a win today here at Lakeland.
Well, believe me, what he's after is a win. It's going to be tough to do. There's so many good quality cars, but the strategy that he's got, the way he's driven this race so far, he could end up there very easily. Right there, very patient. He did not. He could have run in there. He could have given him a bump. He could have moved him over a little bit. He didn't do that. He's going to wait till he's got the opportunity, till he can make the pass and go around him. Again, he was in a position right there to give Dempsey a little bit of a nudge and move him out of the way. He did not do that. He backed out because he's much, much faster coming off the corner than Dempsey is right now.
Well, last season, Mike Garvey was second on the laps led list as we finished out the year. 605 circuits he was out front. That was second only to Freddie Query, but this year we've only seen Garvey out front for about 51 laps. Somewhat of a surprise. Well, one other car that had trouble last week, we showed you Dick Anderson's car on fire at the top of the show today. They had to go through an awful lot of work to get that car ready to go racing. One other car that had a lot of trouble was Freddie Query's car, and we asked him about the situation before today's race.
Well, we tore it up a whole lot worse than we thought. You know, we thought maybe just front clip had to be repaired, and rear end maybe a little bit of repairs, but everything we touched on the car was either broke, bent, or cracked. You know, we ended up just taking the whole car apart, putting a front clip on it, totally rebuilt the rear end, basically replaced every bracket on it, hurt the brake lines, you know, just every little thing. It was a lot of work. It took us 12 hours a day for a whole week to get the car fixed, and when you get all done, you know, you're glad that it happened that way and that you did take the time to go and do everything right, because you come back here, you unload, the car feels the same it always had, and, you know, you just got to feel like that hopefully you caught everything and that you're ready to race.
Well, Query's certainly ready to race today as he continually has to move up through the traffic. Another driver is on pit road right now, qualifying 6th today, Harold Fair.
Well, Harold Fair Jr. brings the car in. He had a great qualifying this weekend. He says the engine simply died. Now they're trying to figure out what the problem is, whether it's electronic. But right now, he's pretty much dead in the water.
Well, there's Mike Garvey, and he has moved around Dempsey. He's now into 4th position. He started back in 9th, very slowly but surely through these first 3/4 of the first 75 laps, has moved up and done a very, very nice job. But I'll tell you what, there's the man that so far nobody has been able to catch for most of the day.
Jimmy Cope, your leader. Gill second. Anderson runs 3rd. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the USA International Speedway. We see Mike Hovis's car number 39 going behind the pit wall here as we continue in the Discount Auto Parts 200. Ray Dunlap, Larry Rice, and Rick DeBrule down in the pits bringing you the racing action today. We see there the Freddie Query race car moving through the pack continually. Taking a look at the full field rundown up in your left corner there, you can see where your favorite drivers are running. Chad Docken back in 13th. Scott Wimmer, one of the rookies that we've seen run very well this season. We haven't seen much from him today here at Lakeland.
He started pretty deeply back in the field, but he has moved up 8 or 10 positions, doing a pretty nice job. But boy, when you qualify badly at a racetrack like this, when you've got 32 cars in the field, it's awfully, awfully tough to move up. And, you know, you just have to be very patient. You have to move up slow but sure.
And Wimmer right now is in danger of going down a lap as Query has moved right up on his bumper. There's Wimmer in the McDonald's number 25, and Query putting the pressure on him. More racing going on back through the field here as Bobby Gill and Dick Anderson keep at it.
Well, Dick Anderson, you know, he's been kind of quietly riding back there. He rode back there 4th or 5th for the first 20 or 30 laps. And now then it appears that he is going to make his challenge towards the front as he's really right now giving Gill all he wants. 9
career victories for Dick Anderson, and 10 times he's been the halfway leader in his Hooters Cup racing career. So Anderson certainly no stranger to victory lane. He was 9th in points coming in, 250 points back behind the leader.
And he just ran the outside groove down in 3 and 4. He's one of the few guys that we've seen try to move to the outside to make a pass. He didn't lose any ground. He didn't really gain a whole lot on Gill, but the important thing is he didn't lose anything. So if anybody sticks a wheel under him, he knows that he can stick out there well enough to hang on and hold him off.
Well, Anderson has to be very happy with his run so far today here at Lakeland. The first event of the season here, he finished 30th here at this racetrack, so he's pretty happy with a top 5 run at this point in the race.
Yeah, he's really run well at this racetrack, though, and he's right now giving Gill everything. He's trying to find a way around Gill, running a nice, steady line. There just isn't much of a place to go, really.
Bobby Gill in the Terminal Trucking number 5, racing with Dick Anderson as they move up there on Tim Olson in number 79. Back to the front, we see Jimmy Cope in the Miller Lite number 1 is running through the field here. He is having a heyday at Lakeland Speedway.
There you're taking a look at Garvey, who's getting around all the lap cars as well. Let's go down to his crew chief in the pit.
Brian Hastings, your man is doing some great charging out there right now. Is he saying much about the car?
No, he said on a long green, he's catching up with the leaders. He said it'd be pretty good for the end.
You weren't happy with qualifying. How did practice go today?
We've had a lot of problems last night, and I think we got them corrected.
So he's ready to go move up front?
They'll be there.
Well, they sound pretty confident, don't you think, Larry?
Well, they found an ignition problem in that car that's been kind of troubling them here for the last 2 or 3 weeks. They think that's been a big part of all their problems, and they hopefully will move up now and not cause any more just meddly little things that have caused them all kinds of trouble.
Well, Garvey qualified 9th today at 128.805 miles an hour. Freddie Query was on the pole at 130.763, so a couple of mile-an-hour difference in qualifying, but that all goes out the window once they throw the green.
Well, yeah, the race strategy, of course, like in everything else, is different than the qualifying strategy. There's 2 setups on the race car, a lot of differences in what you do, and the race strategy is really what counts when you're going 200 laps. Right now, Jimmy Cope seems to have things well in hand as he's working his way through the traffic. It seems with great ease.
Well, Cope just went by Jamie James in the number 02 from Asheville, North Carolina. Now, James just going down a lap for the first time today, so he is making his way around some very fast race cars.
Well, he's just been pulling steadily away for the last 15 or 20 laps. It looked like Gill was really going to give him what for there for a little while, but he has just dropped back ever so slightly. But I'll tell you what, after 20 or 30 laps, that adds up to half a straightaway or more.
Jamie James racing there with number 72, Mike Franklin, and they get together a little bit coming off of turn number 4. Franklin says, give me the lane, I got to go, and Gill goes right with him.
Well, and Gill's the one that stood to lose a lot right there. He and Dick Anderson both following very closely. Had those 2 guys had trouble, and they could have been involved very easily. So they were happy to see when they split apart and didn't make too much contact.
And, of course, Jamie James, a former AMA motorcycle racer. He went from the 2-wheel type of racing over to 4 wheels as Garvey makes his way past. Down in the pit area right now, Rick DeBrule is standing by with one driver who is out of today's race. That's Michigan's Harold Fair Jr.
Harold Fair Jr., a tough end to your day. What exactly was the problem?
Well, about after the 3rd yellow, the car started missing just a little bit coming off the corner, and there about 30 laps later, it just died, and we found some wires that melted together. They were all insulated, but the header heat's real bad on this car. Just melted everything together.
Now, you haven't even been to the halfway point in this race, and you look pretty tired and wet.
Oh, that's the water. I was pouring water in my mouth and letting it go. I didn't want to get sick from drinking too much.
What are the conditions like for the drivers out there right now?
Well, for me, when the sun was out, the car got too loose going in the corner, and right now, when it's overcast, my car was a lot better. Beginning of the race, I could stay with Dick Anderson and Bobby Gill, but then as the sun come out, I just couldn't stay with them anymore.
Tough end to your day.
Thanks.
Well, Larry, Harold Fair Jr. has a lot of experience at the Toledo Speedway up in Ohio, and that racetrack lays out a lot like this, although it's not as long. It's only a half mile, but very long straightaways and very similar corners.
Right, I think you just add about half again along the straightaways on there, and you'd have a very similar racetrack. Right now, Dick Anderson putting a lot of pressure on Bobby Gill. He's been following in that manner now for the last 15 laps or so. Hasn't really been in any rush to get around him. As long as he's not losing a great deal of ground to Jimmy Cope, I think he's happy to sit there and just wait on a mistake by Gill. Right there, Gill, you can see when he backed out of the throttle, the fire came out. He tried to sneak under, but it just wasn't enough room.
Brad Webb in car number 78 being lapped once again there on the racetrack as Jimmy Cope continues to be your leader this afternoon here at USA International Speedway.
And look at Garvey. He's right on the tail of these 2 guys. He's caught up with them. He's steadily moved up through the field. Now then he's right on back of Dick Anderson, and he's going to apply the pressure to both of these guys.
Good racing all the way around the track today as Anderson now moves up on Bobby Gill, and here comes Mike Garvey. Garvey coming up in car number 40, and this could become a 3-way battle.
Well, you know, we're getting to the point where the tires have been out there for a lot of laps. they're a little bit loose. The racetrack's getting slicker. So when that happens, the handling on the race cars change a little bit. It appears that it's helped Cope, it's hurt Gill, and it's obviously helped Garvey as he's moved up. I don't think Dick Anderson's car's changed that much.
Once again, Mike Garvey with 2 poles this year, but no wins. Maybe he can change that. We'll find out. Don't go away. More racing. Welcome back to the Discount Auto Parts 200. We were under green flag when we went to commercial break, but now under yellow once again as Jimmy Powell in car number 19 has spun out. That has brought out the yellow once again here at Lakeland, Florida.
Yeah, so he's down to the inside. He's going to pull into the pits next time around. It's going to be interesting to see if everybody is going to pull in now. The strategy is going to play out. We're close to the halfway mark. Do they want to stay out there and make that money? Do they want to come in and get the pits and not take the chance as Powell is really going slow? He may not even make it around.
Well, this is lap 98. It has been completed, about to go around for lap 99 this time. So you're right, Larry. This is an interesting strategy. Powell taking the steering wheel loose there, and his window net is down. Hopefully he will make it around.
Your leaders are coming in. This is a big risk. They're going to lose that $1,000, so Query may have paid off by staying out there. Let's go down to the pit.
Well, this is the caution flag that all the leaders have been waiting for. Jimmy Cope brings the car in. They're going to go ahead and make a 4-tire change on this one. They've also got some power steering fluid standing by in case they need it. We've also got the number 5 car standing by in the background. They've made their pit stop as well. Dick Anderson has also made his pit stop. We can see later further down the line, Mike Garvey's made his. Meanwhile, Jimmy Cope, they're going to go ahead and put the tires in on the right side, and they're going to go ahead and start moving on the left side as well. He's ready to go, but they've got to finish this pit stop so that he can get back out and do the race that he wants to do. Meanwhile, you've got Freddie Query out on the track, ready to go racing. Bobby Gill has apparently finished his pit stop. There you got Mike Garvey that just went by. Bobby Gill starts to stall on the way out, and that cost him. And Jimmy Cope, they're still making that 4-tire change. It's a long one, but he'll have 4 fresh tires. They'll have the car they want. They also have not put any power steering fluid, and they sent him in on the way.
Well, thanks, Rick. Great call down there. Dwayne Dempsey from St. Petersburg, Florida, in the C.D. Roma's Italian Restaurant, number 70, will be listed as the Royal Purple Lubricants halfway leader, and that's $1,000 for him, Larry.
Yes, and he stayed out there just to get that. He's going to make his pit stop, I think, this next time around. But it made him $1,000. It's going to cost him a lot in track position. To him, that was more important. But, you know, that's just the game you play. As we see Steve Dorr heading back out on the pit, out from the pits, excuse me.
Interesting to me, that was the very first lap that Dwayne Dempsey led in 1997, but it was worth an awful lot of money to him.
Yeah, and here comes Anderson. He's coming back into the pit area. He pitted earlier with all the rest of the leaders. Now he's back in. Let's see if he's got a problem or if he's just going to change maybe left side tires this time around.
Anderson on his way to the pits here. Freddie Query thought the strategy would be to go pit at a lap 50, and it would give him that great track position. Well, it certainly has worked out to that position as he'll line up 3rd when we go back to racing.
He is taking left-hand side tires this time. He did not take them the first time around. And there goes Dempsey. He's now also in the pit area. Let's go back down to Rick Gruhl.
Well, here's a strategic pit stop for Dwayne Dempsey's team. They decided to stay out just an extra lap because that meant they led at the halfway point. They got themselves a little extra money. Now they bring him in, though, and go to work on the car. Great tires on the right side. So far, they've been very happy with the conditions on the car. Dwayne has. Remember, he won that race in a different car on Friday night. He likes this track a lot. The question is now, is it going to hurt him having made a stop a little later, being behind some of the other guys? He'll find that out in the next 100 laps.
This is a real chess game these guys play on these pit stops. Do they come in for track position? Do they stay out there and make that extra $1,000? All these guys doing different things for different reasons. In the end, the thing you want to do is win the race. Query has one strategy. These guys have a different.
Well, let's go back down to Rick DeBrue and get an update on Dick Anderson's pit stop strategy.
Well, this is an extra pit stop for Dick Anderson. They had lug nut problems when they brought him in. This is actually the 3rd stop, the 3rd time they've come in trying to go ahead and change the tires to get him out on the track, but it hurts him for track position.
And Anderson really had to put on the gas to get down and away to beat the pace car there so that he could stay on the lead lap.
Yeah, he certainly did. And look who's leading the race, just as he thought he would be, except he was 1 lap too short. He wanted that $1,000, but he didn't make it. But Freddie Query's back out front as we take a break for this message.
Welcome back to USA International Speedway at Lakeland, Florida, ready to go back to green flag racing in the Hooters Cup Series. Ray Dunlap, Larry Rice, and Rick DeBrule bringing you the action. Last caution was 5 laps long, and we're ready to go back to racing at lap 103. The green is out, and again, Freddie Query up front.
He is up front. Mike Garvey's now in second. And I tell you what, it's playing out exactly as Query thought it would. Garvey has a nice position. Gill now running in third. Let's go down to the pit area and see what the strategy was.
Eddie Brand, if you left your man out there, he could have gotten halfway money. Why'd you bring him in?
Yeah, when he had checked the power steering, it was low, a little bit low there, so we come in, got 4 tires, and go for the big money, not the little money.
Just got to have priorities, huh?
Right.
Well, I'll tell you, Larry, just to show you how competitive this racing series is, there have been 6 races in 1997 and 6 different drivers leading at halfway.
Yes, and it's been a very competitive series the whole time. Mike Garvey now, as you're riding along with him, he's really putting some pressure on Freddie Query.
Query back up front today here at USA International Speedway after leading early. Jimmy Cope took the front position away from Query, and Cope now racing back there with car number 6.
Yes, he had to move up. That's Derek Kelly back there he's racing with, and you're having a look from Kelly's car. Let's just listen for a second.
Shows you how much work those drivers do on and off the accelerator an awful lot of times here at the USA International Speedway.
Yeah, Garvey, Gill, and Query up front is, oh, look at this. He's on the inside. Garvey's got position on him going down the front straightaway.
So Mike Garvey moves in.
Oh, they contact.
Contact between Garvey and Query makes it hard into the turn 1 wall with the left rear of car number 8. Garvey's car also banged up just a little bit. See Query now trying to refire the race car and get back going before the leaders come around.
Mark Garvey gets going, pulls around. He didn't have very heavy contact with that left rear, but Query did make some pretty heavy contact. Let's take another look. Garvey got the inside of him going down the straightaway. It looks like Query did not expect him to run that high on the racetrack. He thought he was going to run a little lower. There was slight contact made, but boy, it was enough that put both of them into a spin and Query hard into the wall.
And with the banking here at Lakeland, you get around and up to that wall in a hurry. There's the onboard camera of the Coors Light number 40.
And you can see that Garvey's going to stay out there. He's not going to go into the pit area. He doesn't want to lose any more track position. But Query, I think, is going to have to go in and at least check the sheet metal because that left side took a pretty good hit. There wasn't a lot of contact. It just appeared as though Query expected him to run a little lower into that corner, and he didn't. And they made contact and both spun. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Discount Auto Parts 200. Freddie Query has won 2 races in 1997, and now he's on his way to the pit area.
Freddie Query brings a car in. They have a flat left front tire. They got a lot of bodywork damage in the rear. But as far as they know, there isn't any other serious problems right now. The car is capable of running. The problem is he's not going to be able to run up front anymore because he spent too much time at the wall. But they're going to go ahead and change all the tires on the left side. They got a problem. It's calling off the jack. The jack, as you can see, tipped in the middle. Now they've got a problem. They're going to have to lower the jack. And you can see the crew actually going to have to go to work and try to physically raise it. Freddie actually maneuvers the car by putting it into gear. Now they've got to get another jack underneath and rack it up a little bit further, this time hopefully to stay. Problem was, the car was just too shaky on that one jack. They've got the left front change. Now they just have to get the right front change. There's bodywork damage to the rear, but at this point, they don't seem to think there's any other serious problem that they're going to have to contend with. They're working hard to get Freddie back out into this race, and you have to believe he is going to be one angry driver when he gets back out on the track. And as he goes to get out, the engine stalls, but now he makes it.
Well, I tell you what, he lost 2 laps in there on that pit stop and the spin and everything. That's a tough break for him. It's going to be hard to get back. And all this damage is done to the left rear after they just rebuilt that car. So tough break for Freddie Query.
Well, Query had been out front for 42 laps in today's race. And this is really a tough break after that crew has worked so hard to get that car back together and to have this happen here at Lakeland.
In second place is Ronnie Sanders. We haven't talked much about him, but after those pit stops, he snuck up into the front there and is running a nice race. Let's go down to the pits to Rick DeBrule.
All right, Alec, you changed the tires on the right side. You've seen the rear bodywork damage. Is that all there is to it?
It's too early to tell, really. We just got to go out there and make some runs. to see if anything's smoking or rubbing. What your dad's saying, he's not real happy.
Larry, on the Saturday night type late model racing, most of these guys run 35 or 40 lap features. This is a 200 lap race, an entirely different kind of racing, and that makes the pit stop so very important.
Well, it does. It makes the strategy very, very important as to what happens there, because if you pit early, like Query did, he was betting the track position was going to be more important than fresh tires at the end. And, you know, we'll never know now whether that would have paid off because he's a couple laps down. Everybody else thought it was better to have fresher tires, go to the halfway mark or near there. I think almost everybody had a window of 90 to 110 laps. That's where they wanted to pit. It didn't work out that they could win the halfway money. Well, so be it. It was more important to win the race, as you heard a couple of the crew chiefs say. So everybody's trying to use their own strategy, use their own philosophy on how to win this race. Unfortunately, Query's philosophy, we'll never know how it would have turned out.
Now, what about Bobby Gill? Again, we talked about it earlier. He won the race here last year at Lakeland, and he's got a pretty good race car underneath him today.
He's got a very good race car. As we take a look there at the 72 car of Mike Franklin now, he's going around Billy Bigley. But Gill really has been up front. He's run a nice race all day long. Jimmy Cope now running in second. Sanders back there running in third. Seems to be losing a little bit of ground, but those front two cars, along with Garvey and, of course, Query, seem to be the class of the field all day long.
You're looking at the number 25 of Scott Wimmer. That's the black McDonald's car. He makes the move on the outside of the Budweiser number 28 as we reach lap 115 today here in the Discount Auto Parts 200.
You're riding along with Mike Garvey, and you see some smoke coming from a car up front. Let's head for the pit area and see what Rick DeBrule has for us.
Word from Mike Garvey's crew is that he's not reporting any damage on the car. Apparently it was one of those gentle spins, despite the fact that they took Freddie Query into the wall. As a result, they didn't even come in and change tires. He seems to think the car is raceable to the end.
Well, I'll tell you what, it looks raceable to the end. He's been pretty strong all day long, as there he is, moving back through that pack of cars, and that's Ronnie Burkett out there smoking on the outside. It appears that every time he goes through the corner, the bodywork rubs on that left rear tire, and he won't be able to do that too long because that left rear is going to blow.
Well, there's a good bit of body damage to the right front of Burkett's car, and I just wonder if maybe the body has shifted a little bit as he makes contact there with Tony Walls in the number 81. Burkett, of course, from Longwood, Florida, had that great run just a couple of weeks ago at Orange County Speedway. A second-place run, his career best, but he's having trouble today here at Lakeland.
Yeah, whatever pushed that bodywork into that left rear, it's smoking extremely bad in the corners, and it's going to blow that tire very, very shortly.
I'm wondering if his best strategy, Larry, isn't to come into the pits and have the crew take a look at that. Well, that's exactly what he's going to do. He dives down to the inside. And Burkett will now head to the pit area and see what the problem is with car number 31.
That's going to hurt his chances. That's going to, he's probably going to lose a lap under green, as we see right now. Here comes Bobby Gill around. So it's going to hurt his chances to win as Bobby Gill and Jimmy Cope pound on around the racetrack.
Well, Burkett has only completed 76% of the laps this season.
Ronnie Burkett brings the car in. He's pounding his hand on the steering wheel right now, very frustrated. They're going to go ahead and change that left rear and see what the ultimate problem is. If there's some bigger problem that's causing all this. The team doesn't look really happy right now as they look underneath trying to figure out why they're having the problem with the smoke coming from the tire.
So Bobby Gill continues to move around the racetrack here in the Terminal Trucking number 5. You're watching the 6th event of the 1997 Hooters Cup Miller Lite National Championship, racing today at USA International Speedway in Lakeland, Florida. You're looking at Dwayne Dempsey there in car number 70 as we move back to the front where Jimmy Cope is trying to chase down Bobby Gill.
So far, Bobby Gill's done a nice job hanging in there. Cope is just not running him down. He gained on him for several laps, got about 6 or 8 car lengths behind, and either decided to ride there for a while or just can't catch him. And I can't imagine he's not trying to catch him. You know, even though there's several laps to go in this race, you want to get as close to a guy as you can so that if he makes a mistake, you can make the pass easy. If you wait till the last part of the race to move up there and try to make that pass, and he doesn't make a mistake, then things get a whole lot tougher.
As we look at the full field rundown for you folks, I guess the big question right now, Larry, is for Jimmy Cope, he is really in the catbird seat in the national points chase, as Freddie Query has had trouble after getting into contact over there and banging the wall. You know, how does this play out throughout the rest of the day? if Cope can stay up there and Query has a bad finish, Cope may take over the point lead.
Well, obviously, he wants to take over the point lead, but believe me, the most important thing is winning the race. If you win the races, then the points are going to take care of themselves. And I think that's the way most guys look at it until the very last of the season. When you get down to the last 2 or 3, then you can maybe start thinking about points only. But right now, he knows that he has a very good car. He knows he has a great chance to win this race. And he's probably going to do everything he can short of crashing himself or anybody else to win this thing. And right now, he's running Bobby Gill down slowly but surely.
Well, if there's anyone that's in position with the momentum to win, it's going to be Jimmy Cope after winning the last 2 races, one at Mobile in Alabama and Orange County at Rougemont, North Carolina. Jimmy Cope has led laps 30 through 47, 55 through 99, and now he's going to try to get back up there and put some pressure on Bobby Gill.
Well, the one thing that seems to be helping Jimmy Cope is he seems to be a little bit better in traffic. When Bobby Gill catches a lap car, it seems that's when Cope makes his gains his ground on him. When they're out there running alone and not passing anybody, they seem to be fairly equal. But when Gill catches a lap car and has to go to the outside, Cope moves up on him, and that seems to be his advantage and could play to a big advantage later in the race.
We've had 4 different leaders today in the Discount Auto Parts 200. Dwayne Dempsey has been out front for just 1 lap, but it was a good one. It paid the $1,000 at halfway. Then Freddie Query was out front for 42 laps. Right now, Bobby Gill continues to lead, and Jimmy Cope has also led in today's race.
Yeah, and we just took another look at Ronnie Sanders from Fayetteville, Georgia, and he's done a nice job today. He's not been flashy. Oh, we got somebody way up in the corner down there.
That's Dorer that has crashed over in turn number 2.
Yeah, he looked like he got way up there, hit the fence a little bit. Yeah, you can see the right side way out of whack. So he's going to head for the pit area, and we'll be right back to take a look right after this.
Welcome back to the USAR Hooters Cup Series, running today at the USA International Speedway. Well, Ronnie Burkett was 12th in points coming into today's race, but right now he continues to sit in the pit area. Rick DeBrule.
Story in Ronnie Burkett's car, apparently they had a bracket break on the rear end. As a result, that's what caused the car to lower, get into the left rear tire. They're going to go ahead and try and fix it now and send it back out, but he's lost a lot of time. Very frustrating day for Ronnie Burkett.
Of course, Burkett, one of the candidates for the Rookie of the Year, along with Scott Wimmer, who had to start last because he missed the driver's meeting. He is now running in 5th position. Done a whale of a job. He must have been pretty upset.
Not sure how you miss a driver's meeting, although we did have an awful lot of rain yesterday, and this race was rescheduled, so that may be Wimmer's excuse. We see Bill Plemons Jr. there in the number 15 car, another driver who's running for that Rookie of the Year. We've got a very good class of cars in 97.
But Dwayne Dempsey brings the car in. Apparently he's been kind of loose. They're a little concerned with the handling on it. Apparently so much so that they're willing to go ahead and take this caution, make a pit stop, and go back out.
So Dempsey back on the racetrack as the field will line up now. We'll try to get a restart here in the Discount Auto Parts 200. Bobby Gill continues to be your leader.
Yes, and he's been Dempsey's been running up front most of the day. That pit stop is going to put him back near the back, so that's going to hurt him quite a bit. Let's go down to Rick DeBrule in the pit area.
Gene Bolden, you're just about hoarse out here yelling for your guy today. How's the car doing?
It's doing fine. We're a little bit low on horsepower, but we're trying.
Is he saying much at all about how it's handling?
I said it handles fine. We're just, like I say, we're a little low on horsepower. We're keeping up with them through the corners. We're a little weak down the straightaway.
So all these yellows are helping you out by keeping you up there?
Yeah. We can hang on for a top 5. I'll be happy.
Well, Ronnie Sanders' best run of the season so far was a 10th at Mobile. Can he better that one today? We'll find out.
Oh, welcome back to USA International Speedway in Lakeland, Florida. Remember all that talk about rain we had at the beginning of the race? Well, here's the latest weather report. I got news for you. Nothing but blue sky back there. We're going to make it all the way through this one.
Well, Larry, evidently Rick's sleeves are still dry down there with that high-tech weather forecasting he's been doing.
Well, the hot and humid as it is, I don't know how anything's dry because it's really hot down there. I got to feel that some of the drivers are going to feel some of this fatigue before it's all over with. Look alongside of Gill up there in the front. That is none other than the guy who spun earlier, Freddie Query. I'll tell you what, he's going to try to get back first of 2 laps, hope he can get back around and get on the lead lap. We've seen it done a lot in Winston Cup racing. He's going to try to do it right here.
Well, and Query's car still is very, very fast. We'll check the restart here as we get ready to go back to racing. Lap 143 of 200 today in the Discount Auto Parts 200. Ray Dunlap, Larry Rice, and Rick DeBrule bringing you the Hooters Cup Racing from USA International Speedway. Down the front straightaway, Query has the line. He gives a little rub there to Gill. Gill gets high on the outside, and Jimmy Cope makes the move by. He will take over the lead here as Query is now back 1 lap better than he was just a moment ago.
Hey, Freddie, that wasn't Bobby Gill that ran into you a while ago. That was somebody else. Boy, he went in there. He almost put Gill in the trick bag there. He got him way up in the marbles. Gill did a nice job not to lose it and go farther back in the field than he did.
The yellow flag is out.
Well, he got his lap back then.
The number 01 car spun coming off of turn number 4. That's Tracy Goodson. No relation to Hal Goodson, the late model racer in the Slim Jim All-Pro Series. But Goodson slides, and it appears some damage done to his car number 01 up in turn 4.
Yeah, so Freddie Query very easily and very quickly got back one of those 2 laps.
And
so
there he goes, right?
Now he's going to pull in the back of the field. This time it's going to be a little tougher because he's going to be at the end of the inside line instead of at the front of the inside line. But that was a pretty easy match. Now, if he gets another 10 or 15 laps, gets around everybody else who has lapped, then the next yellow flag could be the one that would put him back on the lead with another 7 or 8 cars that are still in the lead lap.
And where the cars line up on the inside lap is kind of one of those gentleman's agreement type things. If you're 6 or 7 laps down and you want to wave Freddie Query by, you're allowed to do that. So Query may be able to move up through this pack as we see the number 81 of Tony Walls now heading down to the pit area.
Yeah, he's going to pull into the pit area, so he's going to open up some of that inside lane. But I tell you right now, the guy that really benefited was Jimmy Cope. Jimmy went right around with Query, took away the lead, and it's going to be tough for Bobby Gill to get back around him.
Well, we're going to take a break from USA International Speedway. More racing, Hooters Cup style, coming your way after these messages. Welcome back to Lakeland, Florida. It has been a caution-filled afternoon here in the Discount Auto Parts 200. Freddie Query in car number 8 has been moving up through the pack here, but it appears that the Hooters Cup officials may assess a penalty to car number 8. Let's go to the pit road and find out.
Oh, yes, you did. Don't tell me you didn't. I was watching you, and you ain't going to do it again.
Yes, sir. All right, Fritz, let's talk about what happened there. What's the penalty for?
Query passed some cars on the yellow before he gets to the double up, so he has to go on the rear.
So he's moving to the back, huh?
Yeah, afraid so.
Well, Fritz is going to be a no-nonsense official. You can hear him actually talking to Freddie Query, saying, yes, you did do it. I saw you. And he's going to move him to the back. Let's go down to the pits to his son, Alex, and see what he's got to say.
Officially, the penalties for passing cars under the yellow. What's your dad saying?
Supposedly, they say we pulled down 3 car lengths before we got to the sign that says you can pull down. I don't know. We kind of don't agree with what's going on, but can't do so much, I guess.
Well, he's smiling on the outside. I bet he doesn't feel that good on the inside. And I guarantee his father's not smiling one bit.
No question about that. Freddie Query making a good run today to try to get back in this race after crashing with Mike Garvey. He went down 2 laps. He gained 1 of those back, and now being assessed a go-to-the-tail penalty on that inside line from competition director Fritz Augustine. On the inside, 00. That is Dave Fletcher, and the green flag is back out. Jimmy Cope brings him down to the line, and he gets a good jump on Bobby Gill.
Yeah, Bobby Gill is going to get around the lap traffic, which was the most important thing he could do. Now that he's around that lap traffic, he can concentrate on going up there and giving some sort of a challenge to Jimmy Cope anyway.
Dalton, Georgia, the hometown of Bobby Gill, in the Terminal Trucking number 5. Of course, this car, a teammate car to Rich Bickle's number 45. Bickle, a once-in-a-while competitor in this Hooters Cup Racing Series. Bickle running the Craftsman Truck Series full-time for Darrell Waltrip, and it appears that he may be on his way to a NASCAR Winston Cup ride for 1998.
Now, if you remember the last time Bobby Gill, he gets into him a little bit that time. He could have spun him on around. He got out of the throttle, let him go. But if you remember the last time that Bobby Gill got around, they were driving exactly the same kind of patterns as we now go back and ride along and back further in the pack. But he was going high into the corner and then coming off the corner low, and he got underneath Cope. That's exactly what Cope's trying to do now. He's running low down the straightaway to keep him from getting underneath. And when he does that, he floats out a little bit, comes off the corners a little higher sometimes.
Well, that in-car that we were looking at there was Mike Garvey, and he has moved all the way back up into 6th place in the Coors Light car. So a great run for Garvey as he is now back in the thick of things. But up front, Bobby Gill tries to keep putting that pressure on Jimmy Cope. And, you know, Larry, he's just saying to himself, one of these laps, Cope's got to mess up.
Right, and now then, Garvey has moved up even further. He's gotten around Wimmer, and now he's right behind Sanders. So Garvey is on the move after having that unfortunate spin earlier in the day.
So Mike Garvey back in the chase today here in the Discount Auto Parts 200. Bobby Gill putting the pressure on Cope, and once again some contact over in turn 4.
Bobby Gill tried everything. He tried going around the outside a couple of laps ago. That did not work, so he went back to the other tactic where he runs in high, tries to come off low. Right now, though, Cope doing a good job of having a very, very wide race car. He's using up a lot of racetrack.
Larry, I'm trying to get a good look at Bobby Gill's car. On the right side, right in the center where the jack bolt is, there's some piece of debris hanging there. I can't quite tell if it's a tailpipe or whether it's just tape or what, but if you see there is a piece of something hanging from the side of Bobby Gill's car.
I can't tell what it is, but obviously whatever it is not affecting the way that race car is running, because he's really giving him everything he wants right now. And Garvey now coming up on the back of Sanders, and he's going to try to improve one more spot. He probably is running as fast as anybody out there right now. He just had a long way to go after that spin.
Fayetteville, Georgia is the home for Ronnie Sanders, the best run of the season in 1997 for Sanders as he continues to motor around here in the top 5. And hey, do not count out Dick Anderson in the number 92 Castrol car. He is right coming up on the back of Bobby Gill now. He's got his sights set on the leader also.
Boy, Bobby Gill has done everything. He made a little contact again. It just seems that Cope is not getting off the corner nearly like he was earlier. Now that time he got through and off the corner much better, as Garvey now on the inside of Sanders. Looks like no, Sanders going to hold him off.
So Garvey and Sanders doing some good racing side by side now. Going into the center of the turn, Garvey makes the move down the front straightaway, and he'll take that position away from Sanders. And Wimmer tries to go in tow.
Wimmer's going to follow him through. No, contact. Sanders is going to spin. Wimmer and Sanders got together. Wimmer tried to follow him through. Sanders came down. They made contact.
Well, the yellow flag is definitely out for that, as Sanders was sitting sideways in the center of turn 1 and 2. A great run for Ronnie Sanders. And he and Scott Wimmer made some contact. Not really any damage on the car.
Doesn't appear to be any damage. He didn't lose a lap. He did lose a lot of track position, so that's going to hurt him. But otherwise, he had a nice race going. This is going to hurt him. He lost a couple of spots there, but still a nice run for that guy's day.
See if we can get a replay on the action here down in turns number 1 and 2 for you. Get a closer look at just exactly what happened between Ronnie Sanders and Scott Wimmer.
He's moving back up. That's Ronnie Burkett, another one of the rookies that he's moving around there in the 31 car. But right now, Bobby Gill really seems to have a faster race car. Dick Anderson also seems to be a little bit faster than Cope right now. Cope did change his line the last couple of laps, and it seemed to help him. He wasn't entering the corners nearly as low, and appeared to help his straightaway speed coming off of turn number 2 the last time. Let's see if he continues to try to move down on the racetrack or not.
We see Webb there in the number 78 going to the pit area. Larry, what does this do for the drivers now when you get these continual cautions? They just ran 45 consecutive green flag laps, and then all of a sudden another break.
Well, it depends on how your race car. I'm sure that Gill didn't want to see it come out. His car seemed to be better. Cope, on the other hand, I think he wanted that yellow because his car is better on the shorter runs when the tires are cooler.
So Jimmy Cope continues to be your leader today in the Discount Auto Parts 200. The number 5 car of Bobby Gill runs second. Then it's Anderson. Mike Garvey is in 4th, and Scott Wimmer, the leading rookie today, he runs 5th. Welcome back to USA International Speedway. Ronnie Burkett of Longwood, Florida, on his way to the pits again. Don't forget, folks, he had a second-place run just a week ago at Orange County. A great run for a rookie. For more on rookies, here's Steve Johnson.
The step up to the Hooters Cup Series can place a driver in a position to watch his career soar. But it can be a sobering step as well, with the competition like nothing yet experienced in a young career. So it is with this year's rookie crop in this top late model series.
We choose the Hooter Series just because of the competition, and it was the best paying series around, the most money we could find, and the stiffest competition around. Sometimes we get a little frustrated because we don't run that well, but we keep fighting. Hopefully we can run a little better here.
We were looking for good competitive racing, you know, something that you wouldn't tear up equipment, that you were dealing with good upper class drivers. And like I said, my brother ran the thing the first year. We were really impressed with it then, so we all elected to go on and try it this year.
What I've been able to do is kind of do like Darrell Waltrip. I just sort of sit back and try to keep maintaining my equipment. I've got good equipment with Mike Garvey helping with my equipment. And I'm kind of patient. I just sort of wait for my time, and certain tracks I'm real good at, and certain tracks I need to be very cautious at.
I've only got about 3-4 years of driving experience, and this is what I need to do. I need to get out here and run every race, different tracks, learn different techniques of driving, learn to drive with the new drivers all the time and how they race, and kind of, I get behind Bigley and Dick Anderson in hot laps, and I follow these guys. I learn their lines. I try to pace myself to them and see what they can do, and then see if I can do what they're doing.
I'm a rookie, and my whole crew is new to this game, so, you know, we're definitely asking a lot of questions. Frankie Grill probably getting tired of talking to me by now, I would imagine.
For these drivers, two things are shared. Each has something to prove, and each is pursuing a craft they love. For the Hooters Cup Series on ESPN2, I'm Steve Johnson.
Well, I'll tell you, Larry, a couple of years ago, Dick Trickle won the Rookie of the Year in the Winston Cup Series. He had to have been the oldest rookie, but this class right here has a lot of talent.
A lot of talent, a lot of promising young guys, and that's what's really good about this series. It gives them a chance to come out and compete on a level that they haven't competed on before, on bigger racetracks than they're probably used to, and some really fast racetracks that'll help them as their careers go along. And that's what one of the things this series is all about. The other thing is to get the veterans a chance to make a lot of money and move up as well.
Dick Westfall throws the green once again here on the Discount Auto Parts 200. I'm Ray Dunlap alongside Larry Rice. Rick DeBrule's been bringing you all the action from down in the pit area. Glad to have you with us for the USAR Hooters Cup Series here on ESPN2. Throughout the season, we'll be going to an awful lot of interesting racetracks, as you mentioned. The biggest racetrack of the season, the Milwaukee Mile, and we'll close it all out at the end of the season right back here at Lakeland, Florida.
Well, Mike Franklin, that 72 car, was kind of playing the spoiler there for about a lap or so as he was down there in front of Garvey, Anderson, and Gill, and they were all trying to get around him. Now then it seems like all three of those guys have and are going to give chase to Cope, who's got a little bit of a lead because he was holding up the rest of the pack a little bit.
Well, Dick Anderson with only one top 5 this season. Oh, in trouble as Dwayne Dempsey has spun around and has contacted the outside retaining wall. Appears like he hit that wall pretty hard.
Yeah, you can see the black marks there behind him. He hit the wall pretty hard. He's going to have some damage to that car. He's trying to get it fired up, move away from the wall. Doesn't appear that he's able to steer it away. He's going forward and backward and trying to get away from the wall, but it looks like he's got more trouble than he thought he had at first.
He tried to fire it up there real quickly, Larry, and I think maybe the steering box is broke because as he moved forward, the car continued to turn right. So Dwayne Dempsey's day very well may be done in the C.D. Roma's Italian Restaurant Chevrolet. A nice-looking race car at the start of today's race.
Yes, and he's climbing out. His day is done. And it's a tough break because he's running well in the top 10, actually leading at one point there at the halfway mark. And it's a tough break. It's going to be the end of his day, obviously, and he'll just have to come back and try again next time.
Oh, he had a tough run just 2 weeks ago at Orange County, a 26th place finish there. So Dwayne Dempsey's season starting to take a turn for the worst after a 7th place run at Volusia County. That's the top of 97 for him.
You can see how hot it is. You can see him get out, get that towel and dry himself off right away. Very warm out there on the racetrack as Jimmy Cope still leading the race. Now then, they're going to have to go through the restart process again, and he hopes that those lap cars will help them as much next time as they did last time.
Well, the next race for the Hooters Cup Series will be at Birmingham, Alabama at the Fairgrounds Speedway. If you're interested in getting some tickets for the greatest short track racing, give them a call there at the Speedway.
Well, Dwayne Dempsey, you had kind of a frustrating day. What finally happened?
I just kind of got tapped in the wrong place, sent me up in the marbles again. I almost ate the wall down there, and I made sure I hit it down here. So I'm just tired.
What's the race itself like? I was going to say, for the drivers out there, what's it like? It's kind of hot and muggy today.
Yeah, it's real hot. That might have had a little bit to do with why we had problems. Just couldn't keep up with it, so we'll do better next time.
Need to get that boy a drink of Hooterade down there and get him cooled off a little bit.
Yeah, you can tell that he was not very, you know, he was really worn out. He was tired, that's all. And look who's up in front again. Freddie Query has again put himself in a position to get back on the lead lap. It's going to be very interesting because you know Jimmy Cope doesn't want him anywhere close to making a challenge for that win later in the day. So he's going to try very hard to keep him the lap down.
So, folks, if Query can get the jump on Cope once again and the yellow comes out, he would be back on the lead lap, and that's what kind of a competitor Freddie Query is. no question about it. But time is running out here. Lap 173, it's a 200-lap race. Query gets hard on the gas to come down the front straightaway, but Cope says no way, shuts the door, and he makes the move down to turn number 1.
Query did a nice job, but I'll tell you what, Cope just outsmarted him. Cope actually leads. Query cannot get on the throttle until Cope does. Cope is supposed to go across the start line first, so he was really in a bad position. Cope did everything exactly right. Now then, Query's going to have to pass him on the racetrack, and that's going to be a tough job. Not many people have been able to do that all day long.
And the really bad thing for Bobby Gill is, yeah, Freddie Query's a lap down, but he's got a fast race car, and he's going to hold up Gill and Anderson and Garvey if he doesn't get out of the way.
Well, he's probably not going to get out of the way. He wants to get up there and have every opportunity to get that lap back. And you're right, it presents a real problem for those next 3 cars in line, Anderson, Garvey, and Gill. They've been tough to pass Query all day long. Just because he's a lap down doesn't make it any easier.
Mike Garvey has had an excellent run to come back after that spin where he and Freddie Query made contact with the wall over in turn number 1. Now, naturally, Query's damage was a little bit more. We're on board right now on the in-car camera, the Coors Light number 40 of Mike Garvey, and it appears his car's still running very well. Now, Query moves up to the inside, and Garvey says, I'm going to go take a look to the inside. We've seen this happen before today.
You got to give Freddie Query a lot of credit. He moved down. He's letting those guys go. He knows he's a lap down. He didn't get his lap back. He knows the laps are running down. So he didn't stay out there. He could have held those guys up for a lot more laps, believe me. That was a good sportsmanship gesture, and especially since he and Garvey were the two that got together, and he did let him go on by, too.
Well, don't forget, this is an 18-race series throughout the season, and many of these drivers are competing in every event. And they'll remember that Freddie Query gave him a little help.
What goes around comes around, believe me, and it does in this sport the same as in everything else. And you're exactly right. Query might need a favor someday, and he might call it in on something like that. But right now, Gill and Anderson are the 2 guys, and Anderson again seems to be one of the faster race cars. It's after a yellow flag, so we're going to see if Cope really is the fastest guy for these first few laps, and then later on they start reeling him in. I think right now the only reason he has a lead is because of the lap car of Query.
Well, Dick Anderson almost won earlier this season at Volusia County. He finished second. Guess who won that day? Freddie Query was out front. But today, he's going to have to make his way around Bobby Gill and try to catch Jimmy Cope if he can do it. I'm not sure if he has the car to do it because now Cope is starting to stretch out his lead on Bobby Gill.
Yeah, I think Cope's car is just much better on the cooler tires. Until he gets about 20 laps on those tires, he seems to have been the fastest race car. Early in the race, you remember, there were a lot of yellows. As long as there was a yellow every 10, 15 laps, nobody could touch him. But once they run 30, 40 laps in a row, then his tires seem to get hot. The race car slows down. Everybody else catches up. Garvey's another one. He doesn't seem to be near as fast right now as he has some body work on the right-hand side hanging out there. But he's not near as fast now as he is after 20 or so green flag laps.
I'll tell you, Larry, I am really impressed at how much Jimmy Cope has stepped up their program from last season. In 1996, they led 225 laps in only 3 races. Already this season, he's won 2 races, and coming into today's race, they've led 170 so laps, and now today he's going to add another 100 or more to that.
Yeah, he certainly is. Only 20 laps to go, and I think that bodes well for Cope. I think the fewer laps, we got a car down on the inside. That's the 79 car. That's Tim Olson, another one of the rookie candidates who has slid into the wall down there and sitting there in the infield. You can see how much rain we've had. See all the water sitting down there that he's sitting in? He's trying to get that car refired and back on the racetrack, but right now, doesn't see. Oh, look at the water back up there he threw on the racetrack. Big mud puddle that he's throwing water on the racetrack.
Car number 79, that's Tim Olson. He's from Plymouth, Minnesota. Can you imagine, Larry, every week this driver and his crew drives down from Minnesota, and this weekend we're racing here in Florida. That was a heck of a drive.
Yeah, 1,500 miles, a long, long way to come. That's how dedicated a lot of these guys are and how much they believe in this series. Holson right there, you can see the tires spinning. Slicks on wet grass, not a good combination.
And he's waving to the wrecker. He's saying, come on, buddy, give me a hand here. I got to get going. I got to get back in this race. Some damage on the right side there of Tim Olson's car.
Yeah, I think really all he needs is a push truck to get him pushed out of that water. The wheels are still turning. Everything seems to be okay. He's just mired in some mud and muck down there and then can't get going. The ambulance now pulling out there. They're going to pull on back in, but really no problem with the car, I don't think. I think it's just the fact that he's stuck down there. Well, the wheels are turned hard left. He probably doesn't realize that. If the wheels were straight, it might actually go ahead and go. But with the wheels turned hard left like that, it's not going to go anywhere until he gets the wheels turned straight or somebody gives him a shove.
A significant amount of rain this weekend here in Lakeland, Florida. We're on the second day trying to get this race in after being rained out, but we're in the closing laps today of the Discount Auto Parts 200. Tim Olson has brought out the yellow here, and you're right, Larry, a problem with the steering in car number 79. They'll push him to the pits, and we'll come back for the last couple of laps of this great race from Lakeland, Florida. Don't go away. Jimmy Cope is your leader. Today's running of the Discount Auto Parts 200 has been brought to you by Hooters Restaurants. It's delightfully tacky, yet unrefined. And by Jackaroo Barbie Sauce. If you've got regular barbecue sauce, you ain't got Jack. And by Naturally Fresh Pure Spring Mountain Water. It's naturally refreshing.
Welcome back to the Discount Auto Parts 200 here at Lakeland, Florida. There's only a few laps remaining in the race. A few minutes ago, Rick DeBrule caught up to the owner of the Miller Lite Special.
Well, Donnie McDonough, that yellow came out and you just started shaking your head. That's not what you wanted to see.
No, we got 19 laps to go. We didn't need that caution. I hope we can just hang on.
Now,
I'm a nervous wreck.
All day long I've been hearing tales of woe from your crew about how this car's got so many problems, and yet it's still up there running up front.
He has no power steering right now. He's driving the hell out of it. He's one hell of a driver.
He's going to be one tired man at the end of this.
I just hope he can hang on.
Now, the question is, are you going to hang on?
I hope so. I'd like to, if everything goes well, I'd like to dedicate this to my dad.
Right.
There is nothing wrong with his father, by the way. It's just that a lot of fathers and sons grow up in this sport. It's a very, very close sport. A lot of fathers have a lot to do with what happens here. And speaking of fathers, we want to wish our condolences to Rich Bogan, who is the director of our show. His father passed away over the weekend, and we want to offer condolences to them.
Absolutely. Back to racing here in the Discount Auto Parts 200. Just a few laps remaining. The big question is, can Jimmy Cope hold off the challenge from Bobby Gill? Freddie Query again, the car in the way there now as we got back in a restart. The car running in third position is Dick Anderson. Anderson appears to be just holding on to third position. I think Gill may have the only car that could run with Cope.
Well, right now, he's got to get around Freddie Query. Query again could not get that jump and move back into the lead lap. This time he has not moved over. I think he's tried to run off the corner a little high to give him a shot underneath, but he's just running so fast, even though he's running up on the high side, nobody can get around him right now.
And Dick Westfall, our flagman, just gave Freddie Query the move-over flag, said let these guys go and see if they can put a challenge on Jimmy Cope. Cope in the Miller Lite #1 car out front, as he has been a big portion of our race today here in Lakeland, Florida.
Yeah, and with so few laps to go, these guys not only have to chase him down, then they've got to find a way to get around him, and that might be difficult. These yellow flags have actually helped him. If he has no power steering, a yellow flag every few laps will help. It'll get your strength back up, you know, because you do get tired. I don't care whether you got power steering or not. You still get tired under conditions like today, and if you don't have power steering, you get tired much, much quicker.
And folks, by watching on the TV, we really can't give you any indication of just how bad the humidity is here today. It has got to be 98 or 100% humidity, and it is very hard on these crews, and especially the drivers. And Larry, they're on the inside of those cars where it's much hotter than out here in the grandstands or up in our booth.
Well, exactly. The ambient temperature inside those cars is always going to be probably 20 to 30 degrees hotter than it is outside. So it's very, very difficult. You have to be, you know, you talk about being in athletic condition. Your stamina in a race car, you've really got to have a lot of stamina. You don't have to have physical strength so much, but boy, you got to be able to endure that stamina for a long time.
And with these low compression engines that are in these Hooters Cup cars, they actually produce more heat than the old race engines, so the drivers have a lot to contend with.
Yes, and you know, everybody, doesn't seem that anybody's had trouble. The only thing I can think is that maybe Cope on those 40-lap long runs might have been getting a little bit tired because of the power steering, and maybe that's why he slows down. Because on the shorter runs, like this is only at 12 laps from the time the green flew until the green. Now there's only 5 laps to go. He should be in pretty good shape, and these guys are not really gaining on him very much right now.
Jimmy Cope with only one pole in 1997. That came at New Smyrna Speedway, but again, It's not where you start, it's where you finish. He's got 2 consecutive wins, going for win number 3 of 1997 in the USAR Hooters Cup Series. These are some of the best late model drivers from all around the country, folks, competing in different types of racetracks all across the country. Today, it's the 3/4 mile racetrack at USA International Speedway in Lakeland, Florida. I'm Ray Dunlap. Larry Rice sits alongside me, and Rick DeBrule has been bringing you the stories from down pit side. We're under 3 laps to go for Jimmy Cope. I think he might have this one in the bag, Larry.
Yeah, it doesn't appear anybody's going to challenge him. Dick Anderson really is putting the biggest challenge on the racetrack right now. He's right behind Bobby Gill. He's been trying to find a way to get under him. He's been a little bit high, he's been a little bit low, but Gill's running just fast enough that he really hasn't mounted any big effort. He hasn't got up there close enough to give him that little bump to move him over anyway.
Well, good run today for Derek Kelly from Auburndale, Florida, in car number 6. He's running in the top 10, carrying along the sponsors on his car of the race sponsor, the Discount Auto Parts car. So Kelly with a good run. Let's give a call to Ronnie Sanders, also in car number 18 from Fayetteville, Georgia. He's had a pretty good run today. As we see the white flag out now for Jimmy Cope, the final lap. He's got 3/4 of a mile to victory number 3 of 1997. It's the Miller Lite Special, and Jimmy Cope is going to do it today here for the fans at Lakeland, Florida.
Yeah, barring any kind of disaster on this last corner, he is. Dick Anderson got up there in 2nd place. He just could not get close enough to get around Bobby Gills. He comes home 2nd, and I think both of those guys were hoping those last 30 or 40 laps would have gone green so they had a chance at Jimmy Cope.
Well, Jimmy Cope had some trouble with power steering here, but he's got enough strength to get his arms out and wave to the fans as he goes around the track. 3 consecutive wins. He's the first driver to win 3. Of course, Freddie Query won the first 2 events, the first race here at this Speedway, and then the second event of the year at Volusia County Speedway. And, you know, another driver we didn't talk about at all today, Larry, is Darrell Brown. Brown won the 3rd race of 97 at New Smyrna Speedway. He's not even here today.
Well, he crashed. They haven't really got the race car prepared. He didn't show up, but I'm sure he'll be back pretty soon because he's a good competitor. But right now, the man to beat, and he has been now for the last couple of weeks, is Jimmy Cope, and they are on a roll.
Jimmy Cope in the Miller Lite number 1, 3 victories in a row, and that is unprecedented, as tough as the competition is here in the Hooters Cup Series.
Well, it's tough to win 3 races in a row in any kind of a series. I don't care whether it's a local racetrack or a series as big as the Hooters Cup. It's very, very difficult to come out, beat competition, especially when you're starting 32 cars, having 40 cars show up. It's tough. I mean, there's a lot of good race cars.
We talked about how much Jimmy Cope has stepped up his program. Last year in 1996, he was 9th on the top 10 list. He only had 8 top 10s throughout the entire season. Boy, this year he has sure turned that around.
Go, Jim. Woo!
Jimmy Cope is one happy and one tired driver. You did most of that race without any power steering.
I'll tell you, we lost the power steering about 40 to lap 50, and thank God for a good race car and a good motor and the guys behind me, because I probably wouldn't have made it. But this thing under steering, it was tight anyway. With no power steering, it made it even worse. But thank God for a good race. And, you know, wish my wife and my daughter, who happen to be here watching, this one's for you guys. My crew, the motor builder, Emmer, you know, automotive specialist, and all the people involved here. Just thanks, and Miller Beer especially, for making it possible. That's 3 in a row.
I was going to say, 3 in a row, you're on a ride right now.
Yeah, and I hope we don't fall off soon.
Jimmy Cope, a winner and a very tired man.
I'll tell you, Larry, I want to see him try to hold that trophy up. Looks like he's got some pretty tired arms.
Man, oh man, I tell you, I don't think very many people can appreciate how tough it is to drive a car without power steering for that many laps. As we take a look, Dave Pletcher ran 11th, Jamie James, Tony Walls, Tracy Goodson. Those guys battled pretty hard back there in the pack, even though we didn't see a lot of them. There was a lot of good racing throughout the field.
Mario Goslin in 17. Steve Dorer crashed out, finishes 21st. Robert Yoho, the 4-time spinner, will be credited with 28th position. And Darrell Shelnut, the first car out of the race, back in 32nd. Well, once again, 3 in a row for Jimmy Cope. An incredible run today. And that will catapult him into the lead in the 1997 Hooters Cup points chase by 6 markers over Freddie Query. Billy Bigley Jr. is 3rd. You see, Dick Anderson looks pretty tired down there, no question about that. The next action for the Hooters Cup Series will be May 24th at Birmingham, Alabama. The last race at the BIR racetrack before they close her down for the season and renovate the racetrack. Larry Rice, your final thoughts.
Well, I think it was an extremely competitive field, another good race. But again, the same 4 or 5 guys seem to really have their act together. Jimmy Cope has it best of all.
No question about it. We'll see you next time on ESPN2. For Larry Rice, I'm Ray Dunlap. Thanks to Rick DeBrule for his great work down in the pits. We'll see you next time at the races.